John doesn't sugarcoat it, getting through tough times isn't easy. Honestly, he admits he has no idea how anyone manages it. He figures what maybe 3/4 of the world, probably even more, never really learned how to get back up after a disaster. 5 years after the Clark meteorite hit, humanity wasn't gone, not completely. But it felt like the world kept trying to finish the job. Bits of the meteorite were still stuck up in orbit, falling when you least expected and setting everything on fire. They tried to rebuild, but the world just wasn't having it. In the end, people had to move underground. Radiation didn't hit everywhere the same way. Most places got fried, dead lands, nothing left. Some regions, though for reasons nobody really gets, stayed almost untouched. Life, stubborn as always, kept clawing its way forward even through all the contamination. John and his family found shelter with a few others in a bunker in Greenland. It was a tiny group, really. Life down there is rough, claustrophobic, and tense, but they still try to find little joys where they can. John, wrapped up in his protective suit, is the one who goes outside. He explores whatever's left of the world around the bunker, always on the radio with an operator. Even with all the stress, they find themselves talking about coffee, where the best cup came from back before everything changed. On one of these trips, John reports a fresh fissure lava coming up again, spreading fast. He heads toward a beach and spots a bunch of empty lifeboats and a half-sunken destroyer close to shore. He tells the others he'll check the boats for anything useful, but there's nothing worth taking. Then the operator warns him, a storm's building out at sea. John still has a little time, so he heads to the ship. Inside, he finds the crew dead, their bodies ruined by radiation. He also finds a diary covered in flowers, a sad little piece of a life that's long gone. Suddenly, the radio crackles. The storm's changed direction, it's coming right for him. The operator yells at him to get out now. John bolts, panic rising as the storm closes in. He begs the operator to open the tunnel door. The gates finally start to open, but the storm's nearly on top of him. It looks like he won't make it, but a few people grab him and pull him through at the last second, slamming the doors shut behind them. Afterward, John has to go through a painfully thorough decontamination process. Meanwhile, his wife Allison is meeting with the bunker's leaders. They lay it out straight, they're running on fumes. If they're lucky, maybe in a year they'll get to go back outside and start planting again. Over the last 3 months, they've seen a 4% drop in columbium levels per kilo. It's not safe yet, but things are improving slowly. Mostly, though, that progress is out in the open fields, not everywhere. Someone pipes up, suggesting they just wait for the winds to clear out the radiation. But that plan's a dead end. Even low levels of radiation over time will kill you. So they need a backup plan. Canada and most of the US, gone. Iceland, no chance. Western Europe, though, seems to have fewer storms and the air might be cleaner there. Dr. Amina gets asked about the latest on the crater. She says other stations have reached the same conclusion as she has after running the numbers herself. They can't fully explain it, but it looks like the crater's size and shape somehow stop radioactive storms from forming. Its depth helps too, keeping contaminated air from settling in. For now, that crater, about as close to a safe zone as anyone's found. Adam doesn't hold back. Even if their theory is right, the crater's all the way in southern France. He just says it, how are they supposed to get there? General Sharp jumps in with bad news, fighting everywhere, uprisings, a civil war tearing through Europe. Chaos, really. While all this is happening, John finds Dr. Hogan for a chat. John mentions that some people in the bunker believe this is just how life is now. 5 years in, maybe more, and honestly, routine or not, it's not normal. Dr. Hogan points out it's no accident they have twice as many psychologists as surgeons. People are buried under trauma that just won't let up. John wants to know why everyone acts like nothing's wrong. Are they all pretending? He jokes maybe he should recommend a top-notch shrink so they can keep up the act. Hogan changes the subject, asks about Allison and John's son Nathan. John says they're hanging in there, or at least he thinks so. But while they're talking, new problems show up. The ground starts shaking, tectonic plates shifting, tremors everywhere, and now the threat feels even closer. At the next leadership meeting, Dr. Amina reports that the geological activity is ramping up. General Sharp tries to reassure everyone. The shelter took the hit from clock, it'll handle some earthquakes, but Allison interrupts. There's something else, a distress signal from outside. Adam cuts in fast, they can't feed another 50 people. Not even 5, really. Allison knows the limits, but she points out that these people are surviving in tunnels and caves. The others worry, what if the survivors are sick or full of radiation? Allison, angry, asks if they're really just going to leave them to die. Adam insists they have to tell the outsiders they can't help right now. Allison won't accept that. She calls for a vote. Most people agree, send a rescue team. The plan passes. They'll send the snowmobile out tomorrow. Meanwhile, Nathan's in class and you see everyone doing their best to pretend life's normal. Sports, fooling around, yoga, whatever helps them fake a regular routine. John, meanwhile, is fixing a water pipe with another crew member. The bunker's starting to run low on water and it's a real problem. Allison finds Nathan in class, pulls him out and lays into him. she found out he sneaked out of the bunker without permission. She reminds him how John coughs every day from being exposed to radiation during those trips outside. Nathan's upset. He fires back that life is risky and he's just trying to have a real teenage life even in the middle of all this mess. Later, Allison takes Nathan to a party in the bunker, a desperate attempt to keep spirits up. That day, John gives Allison a Valentine's Day gift, something he found on an old cruise ship during one of his runs. Allison tells him General Sharp warned about the dropping water reserves. John admits things are getting bad. Allison also tells John about Nathan sneaking out. Security caught him outside. John wants to know how long he was out there. Nathan says just a few minutes. John asks if he wore a mask. Nathan says yes and that there weren't any storms, but John's had enough. He tells Nathan that going outside is just too dangerous. Nathan says he gets it. He's heard all about the radiation and ash. He knows the risks. John tries to explain how awful it is living underground, but he still comes down hard, saying Nathan just doesn't listen or get how serious this is. Nathan, hurt, just walks away. Allison tries to calm John, saying Nathan's just trying to find his own way. But John snaps he doesn't see it that way at all. He's acting like a complete idiot. Allison snaps back that John isn't all that different after all. He's gone outside plenty of times himself. Their son's just following his dad's lead. Right then, a few people step in, nudging the couple to join the dancing. They agree, and while the music plays, John suddenly starts coughing. Radiation's messed up his lungs, but he brushes off Allison's worry. He promises he's fine, even though it's pretty clear he's struggling more than ever. The next day, everyone kicks into gear to welcome the survivors. Decontamination teams rush around, the west tunnel opens up, it's a flurry of activity. Meanwhile, John meets his partner, mentioning he had planned to work on the intake pump but decided to rest until noon instead. But then he notices his partner staring at something dead serious. John moves closer and spots cracks running through the bunker walls. Not good, this isn't just a little damage. At the same time, a tense meeting gets underway. They're asking for approval to launch a second rescue mission. A lot of survivors are still out there, but the mood turns grim, resources are tight and they're already stretched thin. Adam, dripping with sarcasm, asks where the new arrivals are supposed to sleep. Maybe Allison will let them all pile into her bed. Just then, the ground shakes hard, the whole place rattles, chunks of the ceiling come crashing down. A concrete slab slams onto John and suddenly it's chaos. Dust everywhere, people screaming, injuries piling up, nobody can see a thing. John manages to get up and finds Allison. He tells her urgent now that they have to find Nathan. When they spot him, the kid's struggling for breath, panic in his eyes. John tells Allison to grab only the essentials, they need to get out before the whole bunker comes down on them. Allison turns to Nathan, telling him to take the things he can't live without, especially his insulin. John snatches up 3 oxygen masks. All around them, people are scrambling for exits, but the west door's jammed shut. The tremors keep coming and more parts of the bunker start to collapse. John tells his family to follow him. He knows a shortcut to the surface. Debris keeps raining down, but somehow they make it out. Once outside, Allison looks at John, lost. They both know they've got to leave the island. John leads them toward the beach. Nathan slips and goes down, but Allison and John pull him up and keep moving. When they get to the shore, chaos has broken out. Survivors are fighting tooth and nail for spots on the lifeboats. John watches in horror as someone rips the oxygen mask off one of his friends. Instinct kicks in, John runs over to help, but someone grabs his own mask in the scramble. Holding his breath, John and his friend sprint for another boat. Nathan and Allison make it in first. John and his buddy follow, barely squeezing through before the hatch slams shut. Guilt hits John hard, but he knows he had to put his family first. As they pull away, everybody watches a massive wave smash into the coast, sweeping away the unlucky ones left behind. The boat's pilot somehow rides out the wave, and after a wild spin, things finally settle down. John checks the air safe enough. He tells everyone they can finally take their masks off. Among the survivors are Adam and Dr. Amina. John asks, "Now what?" "There's nothing to go back to." Dr. Amina explains Clark changed the ocean currents, they're heading south now. John figures Europe is their best shot. Amina nods, telling them they're on course for England. Days crawl by, supplies are running out, maybe a week's worth of food and water if that. Then, out of nowhere, the engine sputters and dies. John jumps to it, tinkers around, and eventually gets it going again. Relief all around. That night, Nathan stares up at a sky packed with stars, just amazed, lost in wonder. He stands there, just watching an entire galaxy sprawled out in front of him. He's never seen anything like it, not from inside the bunker anyway. The sight knocks the words right out of him. The next day, the fuel's gone, totally empty. They think they can stretch what little water is left for maybe 2 more days, but they've lost control of the boat. Now the current decides where they go. Eventually, Liverpool appears, or what's left of it abandoned half-drowned. The boat scrapes against the roof of some building poking above the water. John cracks open the hatch and checks the radiation with his meter. He expects the worst, but readings are surprisingly low. He tells everyone to grab the oars and shove the boat away from the rooftop. When they reach higher ground, they climb out, searching for whatever supplies they can find, water, food, anything. Dr. Amina can't shake the weirdness of the place. No animals, no people, just silence. Allison remembers there used to be an air raid shelter somewhere nearby. Adam's skeptical, they never actually met anyone from there. Still, the idea's better than nothing, so they start looking. Then out of nowhere, they spot people moving in the distance. They creep closer and realize there's a whole group living out in the open. Nathan turns to John, baffled. How are these people even alive? John shakes his head. They won't last long. Ahead, a crowd is pressed against a line of soldiers, shouting to be let into the bunker. No chance, the soldiers keep the door locked tight. John's group pushes through, flashes their passes. The soldier cracks the door, says they have to go in one at a time. Allison slips through first, then Nathan, then John. Adam steps forward, but his pass is gone, lost in the chaos back on the island. Allison tries to explain, but the crowd turns ugly, shoving Adam. Suddenly, a soldier panics and fires. Adam goes down. Allison, Nathan, and John rush to help. Dr. Amina presses on Adam's wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Word spreads fast, a radiation storm's coming. Panic erupts and the group is forced to run. In the chaos, they spot a guy named Obi about to start up his pickup. They beg for a ride to London. Obi wants something in return. John hands over his watch without thinking twice. Obi nods and lets them pile in. On the road, Allison explains she's got a friend, Mackenzie, waiting in a shelter in London. Obi glances at her, says the world's gone insane. People kill for a scrap of food now, and radiation storms end lives in a flash. If the storm doesn't get you, he adds, death just comes slower. Nathan leans in, asks Dr. Amina if she actually believes the crater theory. She says it's possible and compares it to the KT extinction, the one that wiped out the dinosaurs. After that, she says, life started over. The impact made a new world. Without it, humans wouldn't even exist. Obi pulls over for a smoke break, gives everyone a chance to stretch. John wanders over, asks where he's from. Nigeria, Obi says, moved to England 12 years ago. John asks about France, if people are really making it across. Obi just shakes his head, things are even worse over there. Suddenly, the air fills with a weird, terrible sound. Nathan looks at John, another storm? John listens, then says no, it's a meteor shower. He shouts for everyone to grab a tree and hang on now. Obi ignores him, sprints for the truck. The second he climbs in, a meteor smashes down and kills him instantly. The group grabs whatever supplies they can from the wrecked truck and keeps walking. London's only 20 minutes away now. When they finally get there, they head straight for the hospital where Mackenzie's holed up. Inside, she's there alive, and she's not alone. A handful of survivors stick close to her, holding out for whatever comes next. Mackenzie tells Dr. Amina the air inside is way safer than outside. She managed to seal off one wing of the hospital and kept the filtration system running with a generator, which honestly feels like a miracle these days. Everyone living there has Alzheimer's. None of them remembers what happened to their families, and the comet is just a blank in their minds, too. Mackenzie stayed even when food stopped coming and the power finally died. Still, for a while, the group finds a bit of peace. They share a meal, talk, and almost forget the world outside is gone. John eventually asks Mackenzie about the crater. She's only heard rumors, nothing solid. John shares that Amina thinks there's a shot at life returning there. Amina explains her theory. If the temperatures get high enough, raw materials mix with seawater pulled inland by the tsunami, and certain nutrients from the impact rocks blend in, then, who knows, maybe you get the building blocks for air and water again. Suddenly, gunshots crack the moment. Mackenzie warns them London isn't safe anymore. That night, John's health nosedives. Allison finds him in the bathroom, coughing up blood. He finally admits what he's been hiding back in the bunker. He saw a doctor about his cough, which just kept getting worse. After a bunch of tests, they told him it was a terminal illness from radiation. The doctor said that once he started coughing blood, he wouldn't have more than 6 weeks left. Allison is devastated. She tells John they should just stay together, make the most of their time, and hold on to whatever family they have left. But John refuses. He doesn't want to die there, and he doesn't want his family trapped in that place. He latches onto Amina's idea about the crater. Maybe it really could be a new beginning. Allison hates the thought, but deep down she knows he's right. Next day, the group, Allison, John, Nathan, and Amina, say goodbye to Mackenzie. As they head south toward Dover, she gives John a weapon and some fuel just in case. On the road, Amina checks the map and figures they'll reach their destination in about 2 hours. Then chaos, gunshots. Amina goes down. John shouts for Allison and Nathan to duck, grabs his weapon and fires back, taking out the attackers. but Amina doesn't make it. At dawn, they bury her. Nathan, curious, asks why people pray at funerals since it's just wishing something good for someone who's gone. John says it's tradition, like the old belief of putting coins on the eyes of the dead so the ferryman would take them to the other side, even if no one really believes in heaven anymore. They keep moving and soon they reach the old English Channel, except now it's just dry land. John stands there, stunned. He remembers how his dad used to take him by ferry to France as a kid. Now those 20 meters of water are just dirt and stones. He promises Allison and Nathan they'll cross and find someplace safe for the night. Further on, the road just ends. To keep going, they have to cross a suspension bridge that looks like it could fall apart at any second. They walk down the stairs to the bridge, but Nathan freezes, fear of heights gets him. Allison and John talk him through it, gently reminding him they have to trust each other. Crossing the bridge is brutal, the wind screams, and honestly the whole structure looks ready to fall apart any second. People are trying to cross, but not everyone makes it. Some just drop straight into the void below. John, Allison, and Nathan somehow reach a rock halfway across, hearts pounding. Suddenly, the ground shudders, the bridge snaps, and more people vanish into the abyss. Somehow John and his family spot another bridge, just a mess of ladders roped together. They crawl across, nerves shot, every little shake reminding them just how unstable everything is. At one point, a guy in trouble leaps onto their bridge and the tension shoots through the roof. John shouts at Allison and Nathan to move faster, desperate, warning them the bridge could go at any second. But they make it. All three reach the other side, shaken but alive. Then out of nowhere, a Frenchman named Dennis appears. He watches them a little wary and asks what they're doing out there. Allison tells him they're heading for the Clark crater, but honestly they don't have anything to trade. Dennis just grins and says company is enough. He tells them they're lucky to have run into him. Most people in this area aren't exactly friendly. He loads them into his van and drives them to his place. Dennis explains how he's wired up solar panels to charge his car's battery, which powers the air purifiers. Inside, they meet his daughter Camille and his wife Julia, who sits in a wheelchair. Radiation's wrecked her nervous system, she can't walk or talk. Dennis asks if they're really heading for the crater. Allison nods. He tells them everyone talks about the crater like it's the promised land, humanity's last hope. John says he's heard rumors some people already made it. Dennis warns them, the place is insanely dangerous. The Western Alliance and what's left of the French army are holding off the Eastern Alliance, who want the crater's resources. Dennis describes brutal fighting from Lyon all the way to Buran. Only 2 cities are still standing now. Crossing the region is basically a death wish. As night falls, Nathan wanders over to Camille. He checks out her things and asks how she managed to get so much. She explains her dad goes scavenging, finds stuff that survived and uses it to patch up their home. Nathan shows her a blanket he made back in the bunker, a white quilt with stars stitched in. They talk and talk, realizing they have a lot in common, and that spark between them just grows. Meanwhile, John's cough won't quit. Allison stays with him, taking care of him, and together they get lost in memories, thinking back to their wedding night. John reminds her of the promise he made to her father to take care of her right up to his last breath. Hearing that, Allison just breaks down, tears pouring out. In the morning, Dennis hands John a detailed map of the war zone. He explains that the Western Alliance is holding the crater so people can live free there, even though the whole area is scarred by war. But there's a safer path, he says, go through Clermont-Ferrand, then head toward Valence, where the fighting is as fierce. The crater sits behind mountain ranges, and there's only one pass through the first range. That pass is guarded by a friend of his in the Western Alliance. Dennis tells them when they get there to ask for Commander Jun and show him the photo Dennis gives them. Jun will know, he'll let them through. John thanks Dennis, truly grateful. Dennis adds one last thing. He doesn't know exactly what's waiting at the crater, but he believes it's humanity's best shot at a new beginning. Then he asks them to take Camille with them. He can't go himself. He has to stay behind and look after his wife. She can't talk or move, and honestly, he just doesn't trust anyone else with her care. Allison overhears this and promises they'll bring Camille along. Later, Camille says her goodbyes first to her mom, then her dad, before heading out with Allison, John, and Nathan. And just like that, the group hits the road toward the crater. They travel a long way before stopping to catch their breath. For a little while it's almost normal, they goof around, share snacks, anything to shake off the nerves. But that peace doesn't last. Out of nowhere, soldiers show up and aim their guns right at them. One soldier, Henry, steps forward and tells them civilians have no business being there, and honestly they're lucky to be alive with all the rebels around. Henry asks what they're doing and Camille steps up. She explains they need to see Commander Jun, her dad's friend, the only one who can vouch for the 3 Americans with her. She says they're heading for the crater. Henry warns them, the combat zone is hell and most people don't make it through. Still, he agrees to lead them through the war-torn land. It's rough going. Soldiers fall, explosions shake the ground, and they have to scramble through trenches just to stay alive. When they finally reach a military camp, they get the worst news: Commander John is dead. John tells a soldier they have to reach the crater anyway. He made a promise to his family, and his wounds aren't getting any better. The soldier, moved by John's determination, decides to help them. They board a bus, and for a while things almost feel safe. But then bandits strike, they force everyone off. John insists he'll stay behind and tells Allison, Nathan, and Camille to get off and run. He faces the bandits alone. Nathan doesn't listen though. He grabs a rock and takes down one of the attackers. John shoots the last one, but he ends up seriously wounded. Nathan tries to stop the bleeding. Allison jumps in to drive, and somehow they all make it to the crater. What they find stuns them: crystal waterfalls, deep forests, green fields, clear water, rich grasslands. It's like a new beginning, a place where people might actually have a future. John, barely holding on, finally lets go. He knows he did what he promised. He kept Allison, Nathan, and Camille safe and gave them a shot at life. Nathan, choking back tears, says his last goodbye, wishing John peace. That's where the story ends.